From Unity of Houston, Texas, this is the Awakened Life with Reverend Howard Caesar. Unity is a non-denominational spiritual community providing a positive, practical, and progressive approach to Christianity. Let's join the service in progress now with Reverend Howard Caesar.
So there were two friends. They had gotten together, and they like to get together periodically. So they came into this restaurant, and they met there, and they were sitting at a table talking, and they were talking about their lives and some of the years that had gone by. And one of them said, somewhere in the midst of the conversation, said, "Look up, see that couple over there at the table across the room? In 10 years, that'll be us." And the friend said, "Honey, that's a mirror. It is us." That is so good. Honey, that is us. Life is a mirror, right? You've heard that before. That's not new. Life is always mirroring back to us where we're at, whether we like it or not. It just does. And it's the power of thought, it's the power of consciousness. And one of the important spiritual insights that we all embrace, and is kind of a basic teaching, is that we've all been created to create. All right? We are creative beings. We are a creation of God, and we are children of God, and we say and call our God Creator. And in the book of Genesis, we know that it also states that you and we were made in the image and after the likeness of God. And that likeness, therefore, also includes that we are creators. The Creator created creators in His own likeness, and there is no getting away from that. And so every moment of every day, we are consciously or unconsciously creating, because we are creatures of creativity and creation. And you cannot escape the fact that you are always creating. At every moment there is energy that is moving through you with every thought, every word, every movement. In fact, even as you walk and talk, creation is happening. Cells are being born and birthed in you. Life is going on that you may not be conscious of. It's all around us. So there is no escaping the fact that also you have been, by design, made to direct that creative energy. That we are to come to learn and understand that with our minds, as we master our minds, we learn to direct that energy in the most positive, constructive, and creative and meaningful ways. So, we've been told that thought is creative, of course, very basic. There is low thought, low energy, low frequency, low vibration of thought that you can feel in your body. Does not give you life, but almost pulls life away, so that you know that there are thoughts and ideas and beliefs that actually are apart from that likeness of God. And then there are other thoughts of a higher vibration that are much more powerful and are much more constructive, because they are life-giving. And you've been given a body that is a measuring piece or a way or a means that you can feel where you are in consciousness. So it is a feedback mechanism, if you will. As we grow in our awareness, we notice even moment by moment or during the course of the day, this doesn't feel right, that doesn't feel right. We make a new choice. We steer our mind and our ways in a higher way. So higher, or let's just start with lower thought, would be basically characterized with anything that really has a hold of us that is negative, demeaning, self-defeating, self-condemning, things like fear and jealousy and resentment and hopelessness and what have you. And that never feels good to be going on inside of us, and we don't want it to last long. Feelings need to be felt so they can break up and be released, but then we need to go back onto the truth and know what the truth is, because then we're set free. Free from what? Free from the characterization or the feelings that are brought on by thoughts that are apart from the truth. And so higher thought would be those things that are characterized by positive, truth-oriented thinking, ideas of acceptance, accepting all, things that inspire, uplift, faith-related thoughts, love, joy, peace, things of beauty, things like that. And so all of us have the seed of God within us. All of us have the spark of the divine. We have the Spirit of God that dwells within us. Each of us is perfect and whole and complete in spirit. And then we have another dimension called soul. And the soul really is, some souls are more advanced than other souls, meaning your soul level is the amount of spirit that you have incorporated into your life and expression. And so those who are advanced souls are more attuned, more connected, more aligned, understand the truth. They're more linked to it, attuned to it on a regular basis. And as a soul, they are reflecting the expression of the highest that is in them on a more regular basis. They have attuned themselves to that, whether it's over lifetimes or however you think of that. All right? So all of us are an evolving soul. I am in the process of becoming all that I am. You are in the process of becoming all that you are. And by that, all that I am held to be and known to be in the mind of God and created to be, that perfect part of me that God created. Then I was given free will and came into a three-dimensional world. And now it's for me to find my way. I left Eden, and now I'm to find my way back to what Jesus called the kingdom, which is the kingdom of God, which is within you, he said, which is back to the state of being of absolute oneness with light, love, and goodness. And so there are those that have taught, and you may be familiar with the energy that is given off even by colors, so that people wear certain colors and look better with certain colors. There is the teaching that there's a color for each day, and a certain color for Monday, a certain color for Tuesday. Dr. Sheldon Deal is a lecturer, travels around the world, and this is one of the things that he teaches. He's a very holistic teacher, and he is on the board of Big Sky Retreat, which Reverend Michael and I are both on. And so he, each day, is wearing the proper color, whether it's a shirt or a sweater or his socks, maybe his underclothing, I don't know. But anyway, so the color emanates with a vibration, is what he teaches, and many agree. And so I only bring that up to say that if we were to give this day and this lesson a color, the color that I'd want it to be would be green. I would want to paint this day and paint all of you green, because it symbolizes the idea of growth, creative transformation, okay? You know, I have a lawn, I don't know if you have a lawn, but when my lawn turns brown, it's not growing. And when it's lush and green, it's growing. It represents growth. And so today let us think of green as build that into our thinking, that I am, you are, we are green and growing, okay? Spiritually green and growing, because that's what we're meant to be. We were planted in this world to be green and growing. So this life is somewhat like a garden, and we are given opportunities to reach for the light, which is the light of spiritual understanding. And as we incorporate that light more fully, we grow, we bloom, we become more rich with the beauty and the essence that life was meant to be expressing through you and me. Now, Jesus said, I come that they might have life and that they might have it abundantly. Do you realize that by him saying, I come that they might have life, it meant that they didn't have it? You get that? That they weren't living the life that they were meant to live, or at the level that they were capable of living. That's what he meant by that. And so it's been translated to abundantly, but it's more fully, it's more complete, however you want to think of it. And so I have come that they might have life and have it more abundantly. And so he came to to introduce us to growing energies of higher thought within us, and to begin to attune ourselves even more and more to the kind of life that carries that which is in alignment and attunement with the nature of God, to have energies and thoughts and ideas and beliefs that are productive and characteristic of love and faith and hope and peace and joy, and these things which feel very good within us, okay, and are very freeing. And so, Emerson said very succinctly and simply, thoughts are things. Thoughts are things. And that would seem very simple, but he said that for a reason, and that was basically not to underestimate the power and significance of thought. They are things. They are alive. They carry energy, and they have power in them, depending on the amount of feeling and emotion that you launch them with. And so thought is creative, and we can be down on our luck at times. We can go through things that seemingly are going wrong in our life, falling apart, whatever, but the truth is we can always bounce back because everyone goes through those experiences. That's part of learning life, and we can bounce back high. How? By higher thought, by returning to a higher thought that is higher than the circumstance or the situation we just went through, learning what we can and going forward. There's a story about a group of children, age 6, that had a large sandbox in the back of one of their backyards, and they had been playing, several of them, in this sandbox all morning long. And they had constructed what they felt was a city of sand. Okay, it was kind of like they had all this stuff and they had completed it and they felt pretty good about it. Who knows what it looked like? They were only 6 years old. But they then went off to lunch. And while they were at lunch, one of the sisters of one of these 6-year-olds wandered into the sandbox and demolished the city. And so when they all came back after lunch and saw it was all a mess, and no longer, they kind of conferred amongst each other and they commiserated a bit amongst each other, and then one blurted out, "We can build it over again and make it even better." We can build it over again and make it even better. Now that's something that a child would know, out of the mouths of babes. We have to remember that. That's an absolute truth. No matter where we are, no matter what has gone amok or wrong, whatever the city of sand has crumbled in some sector of our life, we need to always remember we can build it over and better, because that's a universal principle, because you and I had instilled within us the capacity to create, and to create anew, and to create better, and to grow, and to be green and growing. Those of you who follow sports, you know that there are successful coaches and not so successful coaches. And one of the distinguishing factors, particularly in the team sports of football and baseball, or no, I'd say basketball, football and basketball in particular, there are colleges or schools or programs that are down on their luck. They've lost for several years. They've just been kind of beaten up, and they don't have the winning attitude. And so then that school might go out and recruit a coach that they believe can change it all around. And there are coaches that can. And what is it that makes a coach be able to come in and totally change, take a program and make it new and a winning team and a winning program? It's, number one, somebody who really understands that they're a creative being. And they understand that their team is creative. And they understand that energies can be moving in one direction that are very defeating. And you can get those energies moving in a positive way, that you can bring out the best in individuals by believing in them and getting their energies moving in the right way. That there is a chemistry to that. Now, some would say, well, it's just the personnel. But I have, and I know of, that there are teams that coaches bring in high-profile, great players that never accomplish anything because they, as coaches, haven't really grasped the understanding of how to really bring the most out of these individuals. So it's not just personnel, it's the ability to see in an individual and call forth the best that is in them, that dynamic. And so it's all about getting the energies moving in the right direction. So it is with our lives. So it is with our lives, basically. You know, some of us have been on a losing streak. And some of us, in various ways, have a series of things that may have gone wrong. But we can turn it around by recognizing that we never lose the ability to create anew, and that we are creative beings. So it's back to, again, what can I learn and what can I go forward with from having gained an understanding of this situation. In some ways, I see Jesus as being a coach. I see many of the great enlightened teachers as being spiritual coaches, and that they were basically not necessarily helping us win externally, but help us have internal wins. Internal wins, where it all begins. When I win over something inside of myself that is defeating, then it shows itself up in the mirror of my outer life. And that's the way it works. Jesus said to us, "Truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes in me will also do the works that I do, and even greater works than these." Wow, did you know he said that? I remember a pastor once said, "I wish he hadn't said that." Because he didn't want to believe that we could actually express at the level that Jesus was at and demonstrate at the level that Jesus was at. Yeah, we got a ways to go. Yeah, we're not there yet, but he was calling us to it in many of his teachings, like a spiritual coach. And so all of us may be a seed or a sprout or an acorn, but the truth is, God knows we're a mighty oak, all right? And we're in process, and that's the dynamic. And we're at different stages, of course, of that unfoldment, and we have to make that okay. All of us are at different stages. And we can see in life and we can see in the world that some are very far removed from the realization that they're meant to be a mighty oak, okay? But they will have their day of awakening. And we just pray for that. And all of us can play a part in that by the energies that come forth from us, prayerfully holding visions for the highest and best, all of that. There is often used that very, I think, often used illustration, if you will, where a young boy comes to his father, and his father is reading the paper, and the young boy says, "Dad, I'm bored, what can I do?" And so the father wants to be able to continue finishing reading the paper. He kind of wants to give his boy some kind of a project that will fill his time. So he looks in the paper, he sees this big picture of really the globe and all the oceans and the continents, and so he tears that page out, and then he tears it into pieces. And he says, "Here, go put this back together, put the world back together." Many a person sees the world as a puzzle anyway, and if you can do it, great. And so he takes all these pieces of paper and he goes as his project, and it wasn't very long at all. And he comes back and he has it all kind of taped together, and his father is shocked. And like, there's a lot of pieces there. And it's like, how is it that he did that so quickly? And the little boy said, "Well, it was easy. On the other side, there was a picture of man. And when I put the man together, the world came together." So putting man together, however, is not something that we can assign somebody else to do. It's something we have to do. That's on a soul level what we've been called to do. That's part of our job and part of this life. It's basically our own biggest assignment that we are to be responsible for, to creatively enter into a flow that aligns with a universal mind of God that is infinite intelligence and allows us to move on up higher and become a greater contribution to making this a better world. Life is a journey, and life has its zigs and zags in it. If you were living in Miami and wanted to take a trip to Seattle, and you could look on the map and you could draw a line, and that line was pretty solid, pretty direct, pretty straight on the map that you drew. But once you actually get into the trip and the journey itself, it's very different. And there can be lots of turns, and there can be lots of decisions to make, and there can be factors that can change your mind and alter your course, change your route. And though you may have been headed to Seattle, you may end up in Chicago or somewhere else that's different from where you were headed. It might be temporary, but you're somewhere else. It's a big world, and it's easy to get off track, and it's difficult to stay focused and be aiming true north spiritually all the time, that's for sure. And Jesus knew that, and one of the ways that he spoke of that was in Matthew 7, and of course 5, 6, and 7 were all Sermon on the Mount sharing. And anyway, he said there, "Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those that find it are few." Now stop and think. What he's talking about is actually there were gates that you entered some of the cities back in biblical times. And sometimes they had a very narrow gate and some a wide gate. A wide gate was easy, and you could go through, and the camel or the donkey could have stacks of stuff piled on, stuff that they would carry on into the city, and could go through the gate real easily. If it was a narrow gate, well, now you had to unpack. You had to take stuff off because it couldn't get through that opening. And it was a protective measure, some of the gates. And what that means is that you got to let go of some stuff in this life. There are some things you must let go of. Now, it's not, it's easy to get through the gate that's wide, but you're going to carry a lot with you that you don't need and is not life-giving. But if you go through the narrow gate, it's hard. He says it's hard, but it leads to life, and there are a few that go that route. And so I think of it as kind of a wrap-up statement that he may have been giving as he was talking to an individual or a group and teaching. And he may have been reading from the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. And he may have been in Genesis. And he may have been talking about Adam and Eve in that story. And, saying how God said to Adam and Eve that they were to eat only of the tree of life. And that they were not to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the tree of duality. Okay? So be one with the truth. And don't be waffling back into good and bad. Stay on the good, stay on the true, And if you eat of the tree of duality, of knowledge of evil, good and evil, you will die. The Edenic state that you are in, you will die. In other words, it'll be gone. That state of being will be no more. And so, that was in the story too confining. It was too narrow. It was too hard. And so they didn't eat of just that one tree. And so there are many choices always in life, and there are certain choices that do not, that lead to our own temporal destruction, if you will. The destruction of what? The abundant life that Jesus was talking about, that we are intended to live from and have. And so the tree of life, basically, and partaking of the tree of life means to be connected consciously to spirit, okay? To the sixth sense, which is intuition, which is a deep inner knowing that is beyond any kind of outer information your mind wants to give you. And all the mind gathers is basically the information from the past. In the moment, intuition and spirit speaks. And so that's important. So the tree of life is the listening to that still small voice within, the voice of intuition. It's the narrow gate. And the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is basically everything in between. It's like pulling your guidance from what your 5 senses are telling you, all the information externally that may go against what your intuition is even telling you. It has duality in it. It's a wide gate. So there are many things in many directions that a soul can go in search of happiness, in search of love, in search of fulfillment. But the narrow gate is what I feel Scripture refers to as another way as being the single eye. Okay? The single eye is only singly partaking of that which is life-giving, the tree of life, and doing the best to discipline your mind from going into the realms of that which is not good. The tree of knowledge of good and evil, the tree of life is only good because God's nature is good, and God only produces good. Now, humanity in a world that is run by a lot of humanity's consciousness that is unawakened doesn't look all good, but it's not God's doing. It's our doing in separation from the truth. You know that, and I know that. And so the Course in Miracles says that essentially the word communication and the word creation are synonymous. And so whatever we create in thought, word, or deed is a communication. And whatever we communicate in thought, word, and deed is a creation. You get what I'm saying? It works both ways, all right? And so we are here to create and communicate good, the good of God, the goodness of God, that which is pure and beautiful. And so you can look at all the different areas of life, art, music, Picasso, Michelangelo, Rembrandt. These guys were attuned to a higher level. They were open as a soul to another level of art. And the music of Mozart and Beethoven and others, they were open to another frequency and vibration that they had evolved to and connected with. And so all of us have those streams of energy available to us, but we have to grow into them. We have to go through our own grade levels spiritually, the same way that we do in school. We can't suddenly go to graduate school when we're still struggling with 2 + 2 is 4 at the second grade level. We're all at different levels, and we have to learn the principles, live the laws, demonstrate them, and then new laws come in of a higher nature to take us still higher. But we earn our way there. And so, you know, there's so much to share really about this whole dynamic of realizing that every day is a creation day for you. Every day that you get up, whatever it is that you do is a creation. One segment of the day can be a creation. When you end the day, it's kind of like, well, what was my creation day like? You know, how many friends did I make? How many kindnesses did I demonstrate? How many wonderful energies? I met a lady that I didn't meet her. I passed her on the sidewalk after I had left lunch at a restaurant, and it's on the strip center, and it was just the two of us. She happened to be African American, very professional looking lady, and instead of looking down or away, we looked at each other passing, and we smiled and said, hello. And that was about 6 or 8 weeks ago. It's still with me. It's still with me. You know, if we can do that and be that, as opposed to turning away or, you know, and why do we turn away? Because we don't feel adequate within ourselves. That's all. There's little things that we can do that are so wonderful that make a difference in this world, and realize that every moment, every day we are creating. So we can be creating that which is of a higher order. We can paint our days green. We can all, rebuild that city in the sand because we know how to create. And we can enter the narrow gate. We can see with a single eye. We can keep eating from the tree of life because our lives are truly a creation story. Go create it good. God bless you all.
Thank you for joining us for today's message. We invite you to be with us again next Sunday. Unity is inclusive, welcoming people of all walks of life in dignity and love. We believe that love, strength, and goodness dwells within you. May we all live in unity with God, humanity, and all of God's creation. And remember, as Reverend Caesar says, life is meant to be good.